Well, what a week it was. Finally have a chance to sit back, relax, know that Robert Saleh is under contract with the 49ers, and really reflect on the entire process that got us here. Not only the defensive coordinator search and the wait for Robert Saleh, who interviewed on January 9th and didn't sign with the 49ers until January 24th, 15 days later, but we can go all the way back to the initial start, the Shanahan Saleh start in 2017, because they're looking to retool the 49ers defense right now, and I think retool the 49ers as a whole. So on this day of fresh beginnings, it's day one of Robert Saleh era number 2 with the 49ers. We can go all the way back to the very beginning, and just wait till I show you some of these clips. You're going to say that Kyle looks really, really young. But what a week it was. And let me start with this. It was indeed Saleh or bust for the 49ers. There were nerves toward the end of this coming out of the 49ers building. I can say that much for sure. And we talked about Dennis Allen. We talked about Jeff Ulbrich. Those were defensive coordinators whom Kyle Shanahan was very interested in, but Robert Saleh was his first choice. So the 49ers landed the big fish, Robert Saleh, pictured right here in the article up on the San Francisco Standard. But as they were waiting for Saleh from January 9th all the way to January 24th, they saw some slippage elsewhere. The backup plans were slipping away. Jeff Ulbrich signed on to be the defensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons. I will say that the 49ers had the handshake deal in place with Robert Saleh, that if he wouldn't get a head coaching job, he would be the defensive coordinator of the 49ers. If Robert Saleh was going to be a DC this year, he told the 49ers it would be with them. And they had built up rapport with him over the 4 years from 27 to 2020 when he was on staff. Went through a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and that rapport ended up paying off. Robert Saleh stuck to his word, and he did sign with the 49ers. It became official right after the Dallas Cowboys made the hiring of Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach official. So, end of the day, Robert Saleh interviewed for 3 head coaching jobs with Dallas, with the Raiders, and with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And all 3 of those jobs went in different directions with their head coach. Dallas with Schottenheimer, the Raiders with Pete Carroll, and obviously Liam Cohn to the Jaguars. It seemed that Saleh's best shot at a head coaching job was that Jacksonville interview process. And that's the one that got the most dramatic, obviously, with Liam Cohn backing out, then coming back in. So we had that 24-hour stretch where Robert Saleh was the betting market favorite to land the Jacksonville job, but that never did come to fruition. But what is fascinating is that I think that we covered it right. You know, I can go back. This is the San Francisco Standard. Let's click and go back to the defensive coordinator article that I wrote on January 9th, the day that Robert Saleh interviewed. We talked about, obviously, the Saleh interview, and we said that he'd be a really good fit for the 49ers, which is why he was the favorite. But then we talked about some other guys, and those other guys included Dennis Allen. They included Jeff Ulbrich right here. Jeff Ulbrich, the South Bay native and 49ers linebacker. Gus Bradley, Dennis Allen, Matt Eberflus, Lou Anarumo. A handful of these coaches have already landed defensive coordinator jobs elsewhere, but the 49ers gave us the blueprint back when Shanahan spoke in early January, shortly after the end of the regular season. And we followed that blueprint, and the 49ers followed that blueprint, and they wanted their top choice, and they eventually did get their top choice. And that obviously was this guy right here, Robert Saleh. Over Ulbrich, over Dennis Allen, they get the coach who's already been in this system with this franchise, familiar face, but there is now work to do. It's a rewind to the Shanahan Saleh start. So take a look at this. Kyle Shanahan, back in 2017, this is his introductory press conference on February 9th, shortly before he hired Robert Saleh. as his defensive coordinator. And he's talking about the types of players that the 49ers need to bring into the building and keep in the building. And I mean, visually, this is fascinating. Just wait till you see Kyle Shanahan. But listen to what he has to say, because I think the 49ers have followed this formula well over the course of the past 8 years, but they have to double down on the formula now. This is going to be a big player acquisition offseason. We're going to take a look at the roster and the holes and the players Robert Saleh might bring over in a little bit. First, though, I want you to listen to the philosophy from Kyle Shanahan back at the very start of things in 2017.
Us to get the best players in here possible and make sure to take care of the players who are here doing things right. It's I always feel that when you have a good player, as long as he's a great person and has great character, then you can never go wrong. And those are the guys you got to take care of. There's a lot of good players, but it's hard to find a good player and a great person. And when you got both of those together, that's what gives you a chance to win. Because there's rough times in this league. There's rough times in every year. As soon as you lose 2 games in a row in this league, it becomes Armageddon everywhere, and that's part of the business. You hear it anytime you get out of the building. You hear it from your wives. They hear it from everyone else, and you need strong people. It's not just about talent. You need strong people with high character that sometimes you can't find out really who people are until you go through adversity. And I'm looking through doing that with guys and finding out who are the guys who can handle it, who wants to fight their way out of it, and you try to find the guys who, when things get tough, the ones who point fingers. Those are the ones that it's tough to win with. And you got to find that out, and that does take time. But I'm planning on going through a lot of good times and bad times with these guys. And when you do that, that's how you form a bond. And it's a shared sacrifice that you go through with each other. And like I probably have said a bunch of times, it's not easy, but it's worth it. And we're going to be ready to go through that grind.
How about that? Now that we know what happened or what has happened over the past 8 years, Shanahan said that on February 9th, 2017. First off, he looks like he's about 23 years old there. Now he's 45. So is Robert Saleh, both 45-year-olds. Shanahan was not 23 there. He was 37, 38 years old. But he talked about we're going to go through a lot of good times and we're going to go through a lot of bad times together. And boy, has that been true. They started off with the bad times first. And I think when you talk about forging a bond, which Shanahan talked about in that video, that bond with Saleh especially was forged in 2017 and 2018, then the good times in 2019, bad times again in 2020. But that wasn't just about the coaching staff. That was about everybody in the building. That was about the players whom the 49ers are looking for. And now they reach a juncture where this roster has to be restocked. And Robert Saleh, again, this is one of the more astounding points that I've made over the past couple of days. But the 49ers right now for 2025, they only have 2 players under contract for this next season who are on the team, and Robert Saleh was in stint 1. And that is Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, 2 players on the defense. So that to me is absolutely remarkable. I mean, it shows you how quickly things turn over in the NFL, how quickly things have turned over for the 49ers defense. Of course, they could bring back somebody like Dre Greenlaw to make that 4, to make that 3 players. Maybe they make it 4 through another addition. They could bring guys in from the outside. We've talked about the potential Jets additions. Been chatting with Javon Kinlaw, by the way. I won't share the nature of our discussion, but Javon Kinlaw followed Robert Saleh to New York. Somebody like Solomon Thomas also followed Robert Saleh to New York. There are players who are familiar faces who can theoretically return to the 49ers under Saleh. But we go back to the start, to the very genesis of things in 2017, because this is a new start. And we can pinpoint the philosophy that the 49ers established there. We can see, I think, how well it's worked. They've obviously seen a lot of success over the past 8 years. But we can also look at this as a reset to where they're going to have to make sure that they're adhering to the same things that Kyle Shanahan said in 2017. And this is a good chance to look at it as a new beginning. You're looking for good football players, but guys who are also good in the building. That's your guiding light for the NFL draft. That's your guiding light for free agency, which is going to be coming up in March. It's your guiding light for how you operate once guys are already in the building, since you're constantly evaluating what's best for the football team. This is a really, really good opportunity for San Francisco to enter with a 2017 clean slate build-like mentality with a big head start over where they already were in 2017. Because in 2017, you inherited a roster that was essentially devoid of talent. You've got a lot of talent still on this 49ers roster right now, which is why I think this was appealing to Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator job. Despite the fact that only Warner and Bosa remain from the 2020 roster, which Robert Saleh last saw with the 49ers, Bosa's a really good player. He's still there. But despite that, you have Malik Collins under contract. Leonard Floyd is a solid edge rusher. Fred Warner obviously is better than he was before. Diamond Lenore is now a highly paid corner, snubbed out of the Pro Bowl this past season. I think you can expect big things from him next year. And then a couple of second-year players, Renardo Green and Malik Mustafa in the secondary, who can form a nice core for the 49ers. There's a lot of talent still left to fill here, but in 2017, they did not have 5 bedrock pieces. And between Bosa, Warner, Lenore, Green, and Mustafa, I think the 49ers have at least 5 bedrock pieces right now on the defensive side of the ball. That's a really good start. That's more than most teams have in the NFL. So you're starting fresh with your coach, your defensive coordinator, but you're not starting fresh with the talent, although it is in need of constant replenishment in this NFL. Player reunions this is something we talked about yesterday. Saleh, I just talked about Javon Kinlaw. I talked about Solomon Thomas. When we go to the positions of most need right now on the 49ers defense, it is the depth that is in the biggest point of despair roster-wise. I mean, you look at the cornerback position, there are only 3 on the roster who I project to make the 53. Chase Lucas was their big practice squad guy last season. He was like the Travis Hunter of 49ers football. That's what he called himself, because Chase Lucas played receiver and cornerback and nickelback on the scout team. He was all over the field. So he was playing on both offense and defense. I think they really like having him around for those practice purposes, but I'm not going to project Chase Lucas to be on the 53-man roster, even though they signed him to one of those futures deals. They're going to need more cornerbacks. So when I talk about player reunions, we talk about DJ Reed. And then we can go to the guys who have actually posted online. How about this? This is going to get fans excited. It's DJ Jones. Guess who's going to be a free agent? DJ Jones. Guess who absolutely loved DJ Jones? Part of his selection coming out of Ole Miss in 2017 in the 6th round. Yes, Robert Saleh. And it took DJ Jones a while to blossom for the 49ers. Remember that he had some solid plays in 2019, but that was really the first time in his career that he truly flashed for the 49ers. It took him a couple years to get into shape. He'd be running those stadium steps. I remember back at his high school, right? I think that's where his dad has the barbecue company. That was in South Carolina, not too far from Clemson. Clemson didn't offer DJ Jones. That was a big slap in the face coming out of high school. Ended up going to the school that had been featured on Last Chance U, and then ended up at Ole Miss, where, yeah, he was a good player, but he still had a lot to learn. 49ers drafted him in the 6th round. He learned how to condition, that's for sure. And then by 2019, I still remember DJ Jones chasing down Russell Wilson to the sideline. This was still prime Russell Wilson. I mean, Russell was playing awesome football up through about the 2020, 2021 seasons. He was really elusive, really hard to get. 49ers defensive linemen, who are known as being more athletic than DJ Jones, couldn't corral Russell Wilson. I still remember him sleeping out of Eric Armstead's grasp in a game back in 2017 in week 2 up in Seattle. But there was that Monday night game. It was week 10 of 2019 where the 49ers were undefeated. They were going for 10-0, and DJ Jones in the open field. This is the first time I had seen something like this. I don't know if I've ever seen something like this in the time since. But in the open field, critical moment, Russell Wilson had like an entire pasture to run through. I mean, it was huge, a massive amount of room. I think it might have been on a rollout to the naked side. But DJ Jones somehow found his way near-ish Russell Wilson. And we have to remember the football fields are 53 1/3 yards wide. DJ Jones was able to run Russell Wilson down to the sideline. Like all 330 pounds of him on a dead sprint, able to cut Russell Wilson off before he was able to turn the corner, moving down the sideline. And at that moment, I said, okay, this guy's got special athletic ability. And it still didn't flash all too consistently until 2020 and 2021, when DJ Jones just became a player for the 49ers. I mean, consistent down in, down out player. We're talking number one run defense in football after they paired him up with Eric Armstead in 2021. Anyway, he's played for Denver over the past 3 years, $10 million a year, $30 million contract. The 49ers actually got him for a year extra in 2021 because the cap reduced so much due to all the financial after effects of what was going on in the world. So they were able to get DJ at $5 million or so for 2021, which is a year longer than they expected. They couldn't hold on to him past then. 2022, 2023, and 2024 was going to be DJ Jones playing for big money elsewhere. And he played for big money on a Denver defense that by some metrics finished as the top defense in all football. Well, now DJ Jones is slated to be a free agent. And he's tweeting about Robert Saleh. Good for him. Yesterday, 7:13 p.m. That was right around the time that Robert Saleh was able to grab that 49ers defensive coordinator job. And then on top of that, we've got this. Javon Kinlaw, who's happy about Robert Saleh headed back to the 49ers, posting on his Instagram. 49ers hiring Robert Saleh. Kinlaw, who's also going to be a free agent, is very happy about this. Fred Warner posted about this yesterday too, but I think the most intriguing ones are the former 49ers, especially the former 49ers who are going to be available this offseason, who might make sense on this roster. I mean, you go to the roster itself, and I think there is a clear spot for DJ Jones on this team. He's better than Jordan Elliott. He's better than Kalia Davis. He's better than Evan Anderson. Malik Collins is a really good pass rusher. I'm not going to discredit Malik Collins as a pass rusher, but DJ Jones, as far as the entire skill set of what he could do and what he can do against the run, which I think is especially important for a 49ers defense that plummeted against the run, number 29 last year, he would give them an upgrade at the defensive tackle position at the snap of a finger immediately. So would Javon Kinlaw. Again, maybe not the same pass rusher that Malik Collins is, but I think Kinlaw has matured as a run defender, and I think that he is somebody who could immediately elevate the profile of the 49ers defense. And we know that Robert Saleh loves him. I know that we've talked about Hassan Reddick. I don't see that as very realistic just because, gosh, that could be a toxic asset that you're inheriting. I know he's going to be a free agent, but Hassan Reddick, he had 1 sack in 10 games this past year after the holdout. Definitely wasn't in shape. And this was coming off of 4 or 5 seasons in a row with double-digit sacks, but now he's on the wrong side of 30. People are always going to yell for the big name. Hey, if you can get Hassan Reddick on a prove-it deal, all power to you, because he's probably going to be in better shape in that case. And yeah, then you envision pairing Hassan Reddick with Nick Bosa and maybe some Leonard Floyd in there as well. But if you got to pay a lot of money for Hassan Reddick, I think that the 49ers pass in that situation. But it still is a player reunion at least worth mentioning right now when we talk about how the 49ers are going to build this team. Then we talk about the schematic future of the 49ers defense. This is where we can be much more specific like right now, because free agency is still over a month away. The draft isn't until the end of April. How is Robert Saleh going to build his coaching staff? Is Joe Woods going to rejoin? That would really intrigue me. If Joe Woods rejoined the 49ers coaching staff to try to bring back some of that coverage diversification magic that we saw from this football team in 2019, I mean, sign me up. Sign me up to watch how the 49ers would do that. A lot of people are critical of the wide 9 without really being sure of why they're critical of the wide 9. You know, one of the sillier comments that I hear about the wide 9 is, oh, the 49ers can't stop the run when they're running the wide 9. And I'm like, well, have you seen this? Have you seen 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022 when this is on average like the number 3 run defense in football, number 2 twice? That was all with the wide nine. Like this entire sample, and the run defense is in the first column, is a wide nine sample. It's obviously personnel dependent. It's obvious, and it's, I think, coordinator dependent as well. With either Robert Saleh or D'Amico Ryans as defensive coordinator, and I get it, a different roster, different types of players from 2019 to 2022, run defense was never an issue for the 49ers. Even in 2021, which was a rougher season defensively where they finished ranked number 14 overall, that was because of the pass defense. It wasn't because of the run defense. It's been 2023 and 2024 that have seen the major problems for the 49ers run defense. So how are they going to dig themselves out of that hole? I think the first things that you address has been addressed, and that is the defensive coordinator position. I think there wasn't enough emphasis from the linebacker position on run defense from Steve Wilks. I think that Kyle Shanahan saw that mistake. I think that he saw that he couldn't get Wilks to assimilate the way that he wanted to the way the 49ers already ran things. So he fired Wilks after 2023. He promoted Nick Sorensen, but I think that Nick Sorensen might have just been in over his head with a lot of these things. And run offense is, listen, we're in the renaissance of the running back in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey might have kicked it all off when the 49ers traded with Carolina for him in 2022. Running backs really matter now. They've always mattered, but to the outside, they seemed replaceable, easily replaceable. They are not. So we've seen all these great running backs change teams and just boost rushing attacks to new heights. So Saquon Barkley, going to get to watch him tomorrow for the Philadelphia Eagles. That's been a great story. It's reminded me a lot of the McCaffrey infusion of running talent and just space in 2022. That's huge, right? Saquon moving over there. Derrick Henry, we're not going to get to see him anymore this season because they lost to the Bills. But look at what happened to Baltimore's offense. They took a turbocharge this year after Derrick Henry went over there. James Cook, really good running back for the Bills. We're going to get to see him tomorrow. I know Kansas City, they play a little bit more of a rough and tumble game. They're not as explosive as these other offenses who are remaining in the NFC playoffs. But somebody like Isaiah Pacheco, I think, has been a quality, durable back for them. I made just it's a big ball of muscle for Kansas City that has really allowed that offense to stay afloat. I mean, it hadn't been an explosive offense for a couple of years now. Somebody like Isaiah Pacheco and what the Chiefs are doing on the ground, they've got more than one back. I get it in Kansas City. Kareem Hunt back there now too. But the main point is that the running back position has seen this rebirth around the league, and the 49ers are having to play defense against it. They've benefited from it offensively. They might have even spurred it on offensively by signing or trading for Christian McCaffrey during the 2022 season. But their run defense must now contend with resurgent running games in the NFL. I think for a good couple decades, the league had been moving more pass happy, spread and pass happy, and it was getting lighter. The slot receiver was becoming a big thing. The shotgun was becoming a ubiquitous thing. And the run was becoming devalued. The run game was not what it was over the course of the 1990s and the early 2000s. But the way that football works, I mean, it works in ebbs and flows, right? And I think that it's been so fascinating to cover the 49ers over the course of this entire Shanahan era because they have led the way. Kyle Shanahan has led the way in many schools of thought that have been subsequently adopted by the rest of the league. So you start with the run game. When the 49ers were running the football in 2017, 2018, especially 2019, once they got their personnel in there, remember the Green Bay Packers NFC Championship game where Raheem Mostert ran for 4 touchdowns and they only had to call, 8 pass plays in the whole game because they were just so thoroughly dominating Green Bay on the ground. Well, if you go back to that, the 49ers were one of the only teams in the league that was running more often than passing on first down. The whole league had gone to this spread passing, air it out. This is how you run things now. That was the mentality of the NFL. And the 49ers were trying to zag while the rest of the league was zigging. And it worked. And they developed an offense that is now proliferating across the entire NFL. In fact, it's probably time to counter adjust because defenses have geared up against that offense, especially when it is throwing the football. They're testing its protections. But you see it, Liam Cohn is part of that offense. He worked under Sean McVay. He was a highly sought-after coach based on the drama that we saw between Tampa Bay and Jacksonville. The Shanahan tree has been hired in so many places, and it's even worth noting now that the Shanahan tree is getting fired at some places. That's how long it's been. Bobby Slowick is out as Houston's offensive coordinator. But my main point is that it is returned to style to run the set up the pass. You do both. You pass the set up the run, you run the set up the pass. But for a long time, I think that pass-heavy offenses had encroached so far on the way that things were done that the run was seen as something that was just too inefficient and you shouldn't bother with it. It turned a little too much into video game football. But with the renaissance of the running back and the renaissance of the run games officially here, run defense, which the 49ers have struggled at immensely over the course of the past 2 seasons, you see the dark red over here, has become all the more important. If your run defense is not up to par, it will be exposed in the modern NFL. I keep on thinking back to that game against the Packers this year at Lambeau Field. Josh Jacobs, that was another running back who changed teams this past season. Josh Jacobs just tore the 49ers up in that game at Green Bay. This was all part of the big slide in run defense. So schematically, what are the 49ers going to do to defeat the run defensively? What are they going to do to take that next step against the run? And I don't think that the answer is just abandoning the wide 9. I think the answer is getting better players, finding a way to plug the holes defensively much more effectively than you did in 2023 and 2024. What were the problems in 23 and 24 personnel-wise that didn't exist in the years when they had a really good run defense? Well, we can go back to the roster. I think we pointed out that defensive tackle was nowhere near as good against the run as it had been in the past. Okay, great. There's DJ Jones's tweet today. I think that linebacker, especially this past season, has been extremely thin behind Fred Warner. And I think in the wide 9, you need that linebacker position to deliver because there are big-time gaps behind the defensive line that need to be filled with really good, fast, and physical linebackers. As you can see here, the years where they were in the blue and run defense and in the blue and total defense, 2019 to 2022, those were all Dre Greenlaw years. Greenlaw obviously was back in 2023 when it slipped to number 26, but he was not around in 2024 when it slipped down to number 29. I think they had major defensive tackle issues in 2023 against the run. Eric Armstead was hurt for much of the year. Javon Hargrave, a better pass rusher than a run stopper. You can see where I'm going with this. The personnel on the interior of the defense, the heart of the defense that handles the gaps that wide 9 creates, needs to be premium personnel or the run defense will suffer and then the rest of the defense will suffer as a result. So my proposal is for the 49ers to really focus on the heart of things. Defensive tackle, and then you need to sign a lot of linebackers or add a lot of linebackers to the draft no matter what, but linebackers beyond Fred Warner. They also had issues at least one of the safety positions this year. Jair Brown did not have a good season tackling. And I think Charvarius Ward, who his first year with the 49ers in 2022 was one of the best tackling corners in football. This was an off year for obvious reasons for Charvarius Ward. They have to get back to making sure that they have the best tackling corners in football. Somebody like Renardo Green, I think, is going to improve in that regard in his second year. And however they work on this nickelback situation, if they sign DJ Reed or if they're moving Diamondo Lenore inside, that has to be on point. You can't get away in this scheme. You cannot get away with poor tackling on the back end. With the size of the gaps in the wide 9 to give those edge rushers better angles, you cannot get away with poor tackling on the back end. The safeties have to fill. They're going to have bigger gaps, and they're going to have more treacherous gaps to fill. The corners have to be able to crack down and set those edges. 49ers did that so well in 2022, and then it fell off a lot in 2023. Now that they have Robert Saleh back in there, now that it's not Wilkes or Sorensen, I think that they can attack a definite plan to make sure that that run defense takes the next step forward. I also want to talk about the 49ers offense, because this is what they're building everything around. When we talk about Robert Saleh coming in and the 49ers going back to the start of everything, right? The 2017, I showed you one video of Kyle from 2017. Well, I want to show you another video of Kyle Shanahan from 2017. And this one's really fun because this one goes and talks about the quarterback position. This one talks about Kyle Shanahan and what he's looking for in a signal caller. And the 49ers are about to financially construct their entire plan around Brock Purdy, because he will receive what I think will be the largest contract in NFL history this offseason. So when you're building that team around a certain guy, that certain centerpiece, you'd like to go back and see what the head coach and the main decision maker in the 49ers building said of that centerpiece position far before Brock Purdy was even on the 49ers radar. Have a listen to Kyle Shanahan.
Looking at a good decision maker, or are you looking at somebody that can essentially make all the throws?
No, that's, and you guys are probably going to get annoyed with me this a lot, because I really never speak in absolutes. You take the best possible scenario. Everybody wants, I always joke around about it, but as a receiver, I hope to find 6 Julio Joneses who couldn't do everything.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. You got to find what the best options are. So people have won in this league being pure throwers and can make every throw in the pocket. People have won in this league making plays with their legs. There's been tall quarterbacks who've made it. There's been short quarterbacks who've made it. There's lots of ways to do it, but you have to find out what characteristics make someone successful. And when you do feel that they have certain characteristics, when you're talking about the quarterback position, whether it's their intelligence, their mobility, just their throwing ability, then you got to think of, all right, how can I put a scheme together that allows him to use those traits? And does he have the players around him to allow him to use those traits? And that's how you start to package things together. You don't just get to build your player like you want on Madden, how it goes. You got to see what's out there. And everyone has different things, and you rarely get the full package. And if you find a guy who has the full package, then you do whatever it takes to get that guy, and you don't think twice about it. But that's easier said than done. There's not many of those people on the planet. So there's lots of ways to be successful. Never can a quarterback do them by himself. So it's important that you have someone who can handle the pressure, who can do it week in and week out, and also has the ability to do what you're asking of them. But it also is going to take a very good cast around them.
So that's Kyle Shanahan back in 2017, the young Kyle Shanahan on the day that he was introduced as the 49ers head coach, talking about the quarterback position. And it's almost like he was prophetic at that time, right? And it's not like he was saying anything that was rocket science. I think back then, though, when people were talking about QBs, there wasn't this maniacal, data-driven, film-driven, and then it's not just data and film-driven, unfortunately. It's rhetoric-driven discussion about the quarterback position. So some of the terminology that Kyle Shanahan used, I don't think was in use as prevalently as it is today, but still, he was talking about what would make an ideal quarterback and what you're looking for as a coach when searching for that position. And the question, that was from Vern Glenn, who watches the channel. Shout out to Vern. The question was, are you going to look for somebody with the big arm? You're going to look at somebody who's a little bit more cerebral. And Kyle Shanahan essentially said, I want both. And, physical skill set or mental skill set. And he's found somebody with both in Brock Purdy, which is what makes this offseason so damn exciting for the 49ers, because you could finally now solidify that financial commitment to Brock Purdy and know exactly, well, not exactly, because you're not going to know the salary cap of every season until that season comes, but you're going to have that framework and that blueprint set after this negotiation is done for how this roster is going to be built into 2026, 2027, 2028. What are you going to be able to afford? Where are you going to be able to afford it? What are you going to invest a little bit more in? What are you going to invest a little bit less in? This is the chance for the 49ers to really firm up the foundation of their team. They've had Brock Purdy on the rookie contract over the course of the past few years. Now they're going to have Brock Purdy on the veteran contract, which they can architect. And I've talked about this. I've written about this on the San Francisco Standard. They can craft this contract in a way that keeps the salary cap hits manageable over these next 3 years. So it is a steady build before they can turn to 2028. Even if the cap hit skyrockets, then that's when you could start to restructure the deal. So the very essence of how the 49ers are constructing this is going to come into focus this offseason with the quarterback contract and then the support for the quarterback, which extends beyond the offense, that extends to the defense. And that's why we go back to the very beginning of this. Robert Saleh is back just like he was for the first time in 2017. We can look back at Kyle Shanahan talking about A, his ideal quarterback in 2017, and B, his ideal players. That's the clip that I played a few minutes ago in 2017. The 49ers want to strike a similar formula or the same formula. They want to echo that formula here in 2025 moving forward. So it's about building around Brock Purdy, and one of the ways that you build around Brock Purdy is you make sure that the defense around him is competent. It wasn't this past season. That was the big problem for the 49ers. The defense sunk down to number 26 in the NFL. The special teams sunk down to number 32 in the National Football League. So you had a quarterback who was number 7 in the league in QBR. Anybody who knows anything about the game will say that Brock Purdy was amongst those top 8 quarterbacks in the league. It has been for sure over the course of the past 3 seasons since entering the league in 2022. Even in his worst season statistically, he ranked in the top 8 or top 7 in QBR. Even in his worst season statistically, and even in the worst season statistically for the 49ers receivers, who averaged a league low, like they literally were dead last in the NFL in average separation at the time of catch or incompletion, the 49ers ranked number 11 in offensive efficiency. So there are 32 teams. They're in the top half of offensive efficiency. They're in the top 7 of quarterback efficiency. The offense is not the weakness of this football team, even though the offense has some improvement that it can make, and we'll start talking about that here in a bit. My main thing is going to be the interior offensive line, and also obviously gaining separation in the receiving room. But even despite all those shortcomings offensively that we'll address here in a second, the 49ers are able to finish 11 on that side of the football. It was the defense which finished number 26, and the offense and the special teams which finished number 32 that were the glaring weaknesses of this team. And if the 49ers are going to build around Brock Purdy, if they're going to support Brock Purdy moving forward, the move that was made official yesterday is a massive first step. There he is, Robert Saleh. Now you've got to add the players to make this all a reality for San Francisco if you want to bring it back to respectability. I mean, this is the best illustration, either this or this from SF Data Niners. Where is it going to be for the 49ers in 2025? Because for Nick Sorensen's team, the dot was right around here under Robert Saleh's face. That's the cursor moving around there. You've got to bring the defense back to the upper right if you're the 49ers. If the serious goal is to win a Super Bowl, the defense has to be in the top half of the league. And that would have to be the case even if Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback. I mean, look at the way that the Kansas City Chiefs have built this team to have some longevity around Patrick Mahomes. They've fortified the defense over the years. They've fortified the special teams over the years. They've fortified the run game over the years. That's what San Francisco is going to have to do. Defense, special teams, run game. Last season, 49ers were number 20 in rushing efficiency on first down. If your first down rushing efficiency is not above average, if it's not in the top 10 for this Kyle Shanahan scheme, it's going to be tough because this is an offense that bases the essence of what it does off of the backbone of the run game. When Christian McCaffrey showed up in 2022, the 49ers surged to number 1 rushing efficiency on first down. They were like number 22. They went from number 22 to number 1 after Christian McCaffrey joined the team. Teams respected their ability to hand it off on first down. Teams respected their ability to throw to Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield on first down. It changed everything, but it sunk back to the 20s this past season with McCaffrey hurt for most of the season, with the interior line not delivering the blocking that it needed to deliver for the backup running backs at the level the 49ers needed. Jordan Mason wasn't as much of a threat in the pass game, even though he was running roughshod over defenses and defensive linemen and linebackers and defensive backs. I mean, Jordan Mason, the most physical player on the football field, often delivered excellent running metrics, but wasn't great when it came to the pass catching game out of the backfield, which is also important to how the 49ers operate. So you've got to get that back. You have to get the core of the formula back to where it can create the offshoot of the play action passing game, the offshoot of the number one pass offense efficiency, which is what the 49ers saw in 2022 and 2023. And you have to get the overarching structure back to where the defense is not bleeding yardage and points and red zone efficiency like it was in 2024 and 2023 when it came to the run game. That's how you build around Brock Purdy if you're the 49ers. Let's open this up to some questions. I appreciate this from Jay. It has been an awesome 5 days to cover the 49ers. I mean, so much from obviously Robert Saleh, but going back to the whole Liam Cohn thing and then Pete Carroll. We had that fun discussion. What was that, Thursday, I think? The whole defensive coordinator discussion for me has been fascinating over the course of the last few weeks because I got to invoke this book and talk about just the history of how the 49ers have operated schematically. Now I want to know who they hire at special teams. That's going to be fun. Special teams coordinator for this football team, that is a huge domino, and it needs to be considered a huge domino. It can't just be a throwaway for San Francisco this year. I do think that Brant Boyer is the favorite. He coached with Saleh on the special teams unit with the New York Jets over the course of the past, 9 years since 2016. He was with Saleh there from 2021 to this past season, but Brant Boyer is not going to be with the Jets anymore, and he has interviewed for the 49ers in that special teams role. Though, I'm ready for some good questions, so let's go for it. Keith is asking about Talanoa Hufanga. What do I think the 49ers will do with Talanoa Hufanga? Do they let him walk or do they bring him back? It's a good question, and I think it's going to depend on the price of Talanoa Hufanga. Because if you go to the roster, you will see that the safety position has one more slot, clearly has one more slot. Now, somebody like Jalen Mahoney or Quindale Johnson can play his way into that safety role. Jalen Mahoney's a second-year player out of Vanderbilt for the 49ers, but I think you saw it last year with Jair Brown's regression, with his struggles to tackle. You need trusted help there. And Talanoa Hufanga, for as injured as he was, for the adversity that he faced, first with the torn ACL, then he came back from that, then the wrist, for him to come back the way that he did against the Bears and then against the Rams, he looked really good. I know that he trailed off toward the end of the season, but I had a conversation with Talanoa at his locker on locker cleanout day. I don't think that he was fully healthy over the course of the end of that season. I think that he might have been healthy, but he might not have been, just like fully back in the flow of things. Those are like two separate things, but they're related, right? Where when you're out for a long period of time and then you're hurt again as soon as you come back and you're playing with a club on your hand, you're not going to be the same player as you were when you had a long, healthy stretch as an all-pro. And that happened in 2022 for Talanoa Hufanga. So I understand why he wasn't the all-pro version of himself down the stretch run of this season. But I'm also impressed by the fact that he showed up coming off the wrist injury and looked as good as he did against the Chicago Bears and the Rams in that 2-game stretch. And a lot like Dre Greenlaw, who had a solid flash coming back from injury, but ultimately wasn't able to stay on the field, obviously. So ultimately wasn't able to show dominant durability. He showed some dominance, but not dominant durability. I think that you've got a player who doesn't have all the boxes checked in Talanoa Hufanga for a massive contract this offseason. So return to the 49ers is entirely possible. And I think he wants to come back to the 49ers. And I think that they do have room in that safety room. So remember that Robert Saleh was not around back when Talanoa Hufanga was drafted. Hufanga was a 5th-round draft pick in 2021. Robert Saleh had left to the Jets at that point. So there's no coordinator attachment to this particular player, but this is a good football player who a lot of the 49ers staff respects that the 49ers might be able to get at a manageable price. I think it's all going to come down to that. It's going to come down to the outside demand for players like Hufanga and Greenlaw, and at the right price, the 49ers would be happy to have them back. How's Christian McCaffrey's rehab doing? Any update? It's going really well. He'd be ready to play right now. Christian, if the 49ers were playing tomorrow in the NFC Championship game, Christian McCaffrey would be suiting up for it. I can tell you that. He was almost ready to go fully on the day after the season ended, whenever that was in early January. So, was it the day after that we went in there? I don't know, like January 7th or 8th or around there. Christian McCaffrey was ready to go. And unfortunately for the 49ers, they didn't make the playoffs. So it was people, I think, are getting the McCaffrey injury wrong because they saw him slide down in Buffalo and they think he got hurt on the play where he slid. He did not get hurt on the play where he slid. He got hurt on the play before, and then he was in denial about being hurt. It was the PCL, was totally separate from the Achilles. He was fully healed from the Achilles at that point. He was in denial about being hurt. He wanted to try to gut through the injury with one more run, and he took the hand off, and his knee said, nope, I can't do this. So he took a slide against the Buffalo Bills. And they said 4 to 6 weeks at the time, maybe up to 6 weeks. And 6 weeks later, Christian McCaffrey was ready to go. We're beyond the 6-week stretch at this point. Is there enough return time for Ayuk? Well, he got hurt in early October, right? Mid-October against the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, they say nowadays for the ACL 6 to 9 months, but I think you always give it a full year to get the guy back in full form, right? And some players are going to heal faster than others. I think in the case of Brandon Ayuk, the full year is going to be in October. So maybe you don't count on him to be fully back for the very start of the season. But I think that you can plan for an Ayuk that's looking damn good by the back half of this next year. And you're paying him $30 million a year. So I don't think that's an unfair expectation to have if you're the San Francisco 49ers. And I think, again, we go back to the biggest weakness of this football team statistically in 2024. And it was the fact that they averaged the very least separation at the time of catch or incompletion in the entire NFL. Brandon Ayuk is an elite separator when he's healthy and when he's in shape. They didn't have Brandon Ayuk for most of this season. They didn't have Brandon Ayuk in the tip-top shape for hardly any of the season. So no wonder their separation numbers went down. They didn't have Christian McCaffrey, who's also a space generator. No wonder their separation numbers went down. That's what Brock Purdy needs, right? He needs a healthy Ayuk. He needs a healthy Christian McCaffrey. It's what any quarterback would need to have one of the best offenses in the history of football, which is what the 49ers had in 2023. They're trying to get back to the top. They're going to need two of their highest paid weapons who help them avoid the separation issues they had last year. They're going to need those two guys back in 2025. Guys, I don't know who the 49ers are going to pick in round one. I'm not going to pretend to know. And the one thing I will say is that in this league, you treat the draft like a game. You don't predetermine a play call. You don't predetermine play 11 of the season opener next year 3 months before the season opener. You just don't. You determine play 11 when play 11 rolls around. That's how the 49ers are going to have to treat the draft in this season. What's up with John Feliciano? He didn't quite heal quickly enough to be back this past season after a knee operation. I talked to Feliciano at the time when it was determined that they're going to shut him down for the year. And he said that he wants to give it another go. If he does give it another go, the 49ers will try to re-sign him. He's under contract through March. So they can re-sign him now if they want. But if he wants to test the market a little bit, then he can test the market. If the 49ers want him back, then he'll be back if he agrees. So that's the deal with Feliciano. He does want to play another season. That was the last that I've heard from him, but I could double check with him here over the next few days. It is a deep defensive tackle draft class. So Mike thinks that the defensive tackle prospects for the 49ers, who's your favorite DT prospect, Mike? Who do you want them to pick at 11? If they go defensive tackle, which again, I'm not saying they're predetermining anything, but we're just sitting here talking. If they do pick defensive tackle, who would you want on this team? And would it mesh well with a potential reunion with this guy? DJ Jones could be like a draft pick this year. He'd be more expensive than a draft pick. Remember, when we talk about the value of the draft, the 49ers are going to be able to sign an entire 10-person draft class for $13.4 million this year. That is the cost of 1 year of Chase Young with the New Orleans Saints. He cost New Orleans $13 million. So the draft is the best way for San Francisco to restock this roster in a cost-efficient manner. There was an early prediction that Jennings will be traded. Why would you trade Juwan Jennings? Lombardi herself just heard that, and she is yelling from the kitchen. Tony, you're getting yelled at by Lombardi herself. Why would you trade Jennings? Like, seriously, why would you trade Juwan Jennings? Maybe you're just responding to a prediction. He said there's an early prediction that Jennings will be traded. Who is writing predictions like this? I mean, could you give me a break? Jennings is the ultimate 49er, and let me see how much he's making this year. It's not a lot for what he brings to the team. Let's put it that way. Juwan Jennings in 2025 has a $1.17 million base salary. I mean, this is a guy who had the best 49ers receiving game since Jerry Rice against the Rams in week 3. Somebody who's the best blocking wide receiver in football. Somebody who can play the X position effectively, which means he can also play the Z position effectively, which means he can also play the F position effectively. Somebody who I've compared to Tyler Durden from Fight Club. He's the guy that's able to draw the penalties, and if the officials don't screw it up, and I get it, they screwed it up against Arizona, they don't call one on him, but he gets the other team mad because he's able to keep his calm even while he's pissing them off. That is a guy that you want on your football team, and you sure as hell do not want on the other team, especially at a cap number of $4.5 million this year. Trading him would be idiotic. So don't pay attention to every single stupid rumor that comes out there. Don't worry. I know people are freaking out now that I put this comment up on the screen, but here's from King Wolfie. Don't sleep on those 7th rounders. So Jennings is a 7th rounder. Purdy's a 7th rounder. Do not sleep on those guys. I mean, where would the 49ers have been in 2024 if Juwan Jennings wasn't on the team? Given all the injuries, and I mean, especially that game against the Rams in week 3, I think back on that. Maybe people sleep on that game because the 49ers didn't win, but it definitely wasn't Juwan Jennings' fault. They needed this guy. This is a 1,000-yard receiver. And yes, I'm calling him a 1,000-yard receiver because he deserved to be one. He did not deserve to be thrown out of that game against Arizona. If you can have a 1,000-yard receiver on your team for a base salary of $1.2 million, you're doing cartwheels. whoever wrote that article saying that Juwan Jennings should be traded or might be traded needs to never write an article again. I don't know who wrote it, so I don't know who I'm talking about, but I hope that you misread that article because I just don't get it. I don't understand how that can be an actual take that somebody would have about the 49ers. All right, let's get some questions, guys. I want to finish this strong. I want to finish by answering your best questions. This might be true. Juwan Jennings might be the best deal in football right now. But we got people writing that the 49ers should trade him away. Yeah, great idea. Way to run a football team. Why won't the 49ers welcome Saleh in a press conference? Well, Robert Saleh will have a press conference at some point. Why would they do a press conference right now, though? Like, guys aren't even in the building right now. Maybe you have a couple guys rehabbing or working out. This is like vacation time. Do you really want to force Robert Saleh to fly out to the Bay Area across country? I mean, he's got 7 kids. He's got a family. They're all in one spot right now. They're going to have to make a move across country. Why would you make him do that with everybody sooner than it has to be before anybody's in the building? Like, not everything exists for fans just to be able to watch stuff on the internet. Like, there's actual human costs involved. Don't make me fly to San Francisco for a Robert Saleh press conference, which is just going to be full of canned questions and answers that we've already heard. Like, I'm going to get to talk to Saleh. Everybody's going to get to talk to Saleh when the time is right. And January 25th is not the right time. Other teams are still playing. The season isn't even over yet. Give the guy a break. Give him some vacation time. He just finished an intensive interview process. 49ers are going to start working on their plans for free agency and for the draft, and then they're going to start reconvening for phase 2 and then OTAs. At that time, we can talk to Robert Saleh. You don't need to introduce him with a press conference. That's what we call a dog and pony show. Yep, we're leaving from New York City to Paris. So we're headed to New York tomorrow. We're going to hit up all the team bars. That's going to be in the afternoon there, Eastern time, New York. I think they don't get the first game there till like 3:30. So we're going to go bar hopping, probably hit at least 4 bars, check out team bars for the AFC and NFC championship games. That's going to be fun. Stay tuned. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. By the way, yesterday I said hit the like button, and we got like 300 people hitting the like button at once. One of the coolest things I've ever seen in the history of this channel. Right now we're at 82,429. If everybody just goes and hits the like button, since there's like 1,000 of you in the room right now, it's going to hop up very fast. So hit that like button. It helps support the channel. Would really appreciate it if you did that. And then you could go check out, I mean, if you haven't done this yet, and you probably already have, but you can go check out the article on Robert Saleh. It's right here on the San Francisco Standard. Go sign up for the Standard, right? Mike will even toss this into the description. I'll send it to him. Good time to do that. Hell yes. Subscribe. 100,000 by the Super Bowl. Well, since we don't buy subscribers on here, it might be hard to get to 100,000 by the Super Bowl. But we have the most subscribers out of most real subscribers. Asterisk. We have the most real subscribers out of any 49ers channel. So we will be the first to 100,000. There's no question about that. First legitimately to 100,000. We can get there quicker if you hit the subscribe button right now. That would be kind of fun. Have you seen how many views we've had lately? It's been awesome to see all you guys tune into the show. Massive, massive crowds. I mean, we did a video on Brandon Staley 2 days ago. which is doing more views than other 49ers channels videos about Robert Saleh getting hired. Just put it that way. There were 40,000 of you who watched yesterday's Robert Saleh video getting hired. So, yeah, we're going to get to 100,000 really quick. Sub. Appreciate you, Xavier. Is Matt Hennessy a depth guy? Well, he started for the Falcons. I think he's competing for the center job. He will this next season. They're able to pick him up with a couple years still left on his deal. So he still is under contract for 2026 or 2025. Sorry. We're in 2025 now. So they'll let it play out at that center position. Maybe he'll learn the system and outperform Jake Brendel. Maybe they'll bring in a rookie as well. Maybe they'll bring in a free agent. We talk about Drew Dahlman. We'll see how it all plays out this offseason. But I think it's going to be very, very imperative that the 49ers do upgrade that center position somehow, some way, not just for this season, but moving forward into 2026 and beyond. It is a linchpin of that Kyle Shanahan offensive line. Do I see Kansas City winning again tomorrow off of some BS, as Chris says? No, I think Buffalo's going to kill him tomorrow. I think Buffalo wins convincingly tomorrow. I picked Buffalo and Philly to be in the Super Bowl a long time ago. Maybe that happens. It does happen, but I'm trying to talk myself into changing my pick to Washington. I'll let you guys know before the game. All right, everybody. I've been on for an hour. That was the goal. 49ers building around Purdy and building around Saleh. They're building around Purdy with Robert Saleh and that defense. A lot to talk about. We'll talk to you all soon.